It's not a proud day for this country. How could it be a proud day when a man who was not elected by the people becomes president of the United States? How does that happen? Listen, the man is a malignant narcissist, all right? That's a dangerous combination to have a narcissist like that who's elected to public office, because he's only thinking about himself. He's only thinking, how does this affect me?
Donald Trump built his brand on flashy rallies, gold-covered logos, and polished family moments. But what happens when that image starts to fall apart from the inside? The cracks in his empire are now being exposed not by the media or his critics, but by someone who's been close enough to see it all. Michael Moore isn't just talking anymore. He's determined to pull back the curtain. This isn't about Trump's public image, it's about what happens when the cameras are off. The untold stories from millennia, the chaos they've tried to hide, and the lies that kept it all standing. What Moore revealed live on TV didn't just embarrass Trump, it destroyed the illusion of control he's tried to maintain. Now, Trump isn't just losing his grip, he's unraveling in front of everyone.
Trump's election is going to be the biggest fuck you ever recorded in human history.
Fake news that he's one of the founders of in the Obama era.
So
he created the fake news of the
Barack Obama is not a citizen, and
he said that there was intelligence.
That's right. He was called by a reputable,
credible source
Right.
that there was intelligence.
Right.
He himself was going to. He was hiring investigators.
Yes.
To support his fake news.
In fact,
he is the godfather of this decade's fake news.
This is
for him now to say fake news.
Trump's rise wasn't by chance. He was born from celebrity culture, public frustration, and a media hooked on drama. He delivered catchy slogans instead of real solutions, outrage instead of results, and in 2016, that showmanship took him to the White House. But Michael Moore saw through it from the start. Even before Trump was sworn in, Moore warned the nation, this man isn't a hero of the people, but proof of how easily they can be misled. He was right. From spreading lies about Obama's birthplace to promising factory jobs while outsourcing his own products, Trump didn't change the system, he played it for his gain. And Moore, with sharp honesty, reminded America that the loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest, sometimes it's the one most afraid.
Because when he starts to cause harm to our fellow Americans, people are going to rise up. They're not going to take this. They're not going to take it from a guy that did not get a majority of the votes of the people of this country. So, and his thin skin too could be his undoing. When whoever has the most points wins, right? Tottenham 2, Chelsea 1. Who won that game? I'm just asking you factually. Who won that game?
In that case, Tottenham.
Tottenham won. All right. Now, how odd would it be if you on the news that night said Chelsea won today with one goal and Tottenham got 2?
But what are you going to do about it?
This makes no sense.
Every myth eventually fades, and Trump's was wrapped in gold-plated illusions: the billionaire for the people, the blunt outsider, the master dealmaker. But the reality tells another story: repeated bankruptcies, lawsuits with contractors, and a presidency marked by resignations, investigations, and scandals. Michael Moore didn't create these truths, he simply pointed to what was already on record. In doing so, he stripped away the emotional shield that kept Trump safe from real scrutiny. Moore didn't insult Americans or mock voters. He just held up a mirror and asked, is this really who we are? For many, the answer stung. Because when the lights dim and the crowd disperses, what remains of Trump isn't true strength, it's a carefully crafted spectacle.
Donald Trump is a big believer in capitalism and free enterprise and the sort of thing that's driven us into the ground, this belief that you can just do whatever you want and it doesn't matter who gets hurt by it. And I don't really see him changing, but I think he knows he's been on TV, he's a performance artist. He knows what to say and he knows how to make this appeal.
You think it's BS?
I think it's, well, please, I don't use that kind of language. Yes, I
Put it
think
next time.
Megan, come on, I know this is the flagship show of Fox News. I just want to go on the record.
Oh.
Well, we all know that.
I like the way you make me sound. Go on.
It is.
Trump has always feared being laughed at more than being opposed. You can battle critics and silence reporters, but you can't control laughter, and Michael Moore used humor to pierce Trump's polished image. It wasn't just comedy, it was a cultural pushback. Nothing shatters the illusion of invincibility like a crowd that stops fearing and starts laughing. Once able to dominate headlines with a single tweet, Trump soon found himself mocked on late-night TV, deflated in the press, and parodied even by former supporters. That shift took time, but Moore helped speed it up. He showed that Trump's strength was built on a stage, and the spotlight was fading. The untouchable brand began to wear thin, especially as promise after promise went unfulfilled. Healthcare plans never appeared, the wall was left incomplete, coal jobs didn't return, yet Trump still claimed victory while the numbers told another story. Moore captured the frustration of those left behind, speaking not as a partisan, but as an American tired of the lies. And in that honesty, many saw a truth they'd ignored. Trump didn't drain the swamp, he gave it a new label. And the more he talks, the emptier that label sounds.
These days, Donald Trump is very busy doing a whole bunch of other things that we're not paying attention to. Today, Donald Trump's EPA did something that we'll suffer from years from now that we don't even know right now. His Interior Department sold off land of ours to people that shouldn't have it. His agricultural part, I mean, just go down all the cabinet departments. Every day there is something going on, and we are very caught up in the large things that he's doing, threatening North Korea, refusing to acknowledge what happened this weekend, what really happened. And I just want to be the one to point out that take this horror moment that we're in and times it by 20, times it by 200. That's what's going on in every federal agency under his control every single day. I'm sorry to be the one to have to point that out.
Default text Trump didn't just blur the line between politics and entertainment, he wiped it out. His rallies played like wrestling events, his press briefings like reality TV confessionals. The White House became his stage, and the country his audience, but Michael Moore wasn't amused. He warned that when governing turns into a performance, democracy is reduced to a prop, and he was right. Facts became optional, loyalty was bought and sold, and institutions built over centuries were undermined with a single tweet. Even during a deadly pandemic, Trump made it about himself, treating briefings like TV shows. Moore cut through the noise. This wasn't leadership, it was a broadcast. Millions saw they weren't watching a president, they were watching programming. Trump didn't create division, but he amplified it to unprecedented levels. Every crisis became a campaign, every opponent a personal enemy. Protesters were labeled anarchists, journalists enemies of the people, immigrants painted as criminals and invaders. Moore recognized the pattern. Trump's chaos wasn't random, it was calculated. Keep the country fighting and no one asks about policy. Keep headlines chaotic and no one checks the facts. It worked until it didn't. Fear may win elections, but it solves nothing. And when the dust settled, America didn't feel stronger, it felt drained. Moore didn't just go after the man, he revealed the playbook.
They see that the elites who ruined their lives hate Trump. Corporate America hates Trump. Wall Street hates Trump. The career politicians hate Trump. The media hates Trump after they loved him and created him, and now hate him. Thank you, media. The enemy of my enemy.
Yes, right. But you and I know, because we've known Trump for how many umpteen years. I've been on shows with Trump back in the 90s. I mean, this is a guy who did support Planned Parenthood, who was for gay rights, who you know, yes, he was a big blowhard and he wanted his name on everything, but he also put the ice skating rink back in Central Park. Right. So you know, he's not what he's made himself out to be to these people who voted for him.
So then couldn't a guy like you get behind him?
No, his problem is going to be when he tries to walk back all the crazy stuff that he said. What's going to happen to all the people who voted for that crazy stuff?
You think they're going to abandon Trump?
I think Trump, I should say, I hope that we see the biggest landslide loss ever when whoever the Democratic nominee is beats Donald Trump.
You know what they're banking on? That even though he might lose some women, he might lose some Hispanics, he might lose some young people, some African-American vote, he's going to make it up with the white working class, with the very region he's now touring through, Appalachia and elsewhere, because he's appealing to them and because Hillary Clinton has made some mistakes already.
For years, Trump claimed he alone could fix everything: the economy, the border, the so-called deep state. But when challenges came, he pointed fingers: a virus, blame China; a recession, blame the Fed; an insurrection, blame Antifa. And yet, he always declared himself the winner. The numbers told another story: record job losses, soaring debt, and an insurrection broadcast to the world. Michael Moore didn't twist the facts, he simply laid them out. They revealed not a problem solver, but a fabricator. Trump sold himself as America's last hope, but governed like a man fixated on his own image, leaving behind broken promises and scorched relationships. Moore didn't need to embellish, he just connected the dots, and the picture spoke for itself.
None of what he said was true, but that didn't matter. He knew how to communicate to the American public. He knew how to tell them what they wanted to hear. He went all over Wisconsin the last week saying, I'm gonna make you all rich. I'm gonna make you all rich. You're gonna make you all rich. Well, geez, who wouldn't like to hear that, right? Right? Ma'am, how do I look tonight? How do I look? What would you say? Amazing. Thank you. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it really made me feel good. And that's how he worked, right? He knew how to do it because he was a TV star. He was already a beloved American TV star. Do you realize in the first year, I'm talking about The Apprentice, by the way, the looks on your face, you know. He was the host of a show called The Apprentice. How many people in here watch The Apprentice every week when Donald Trump was on? Can I see a show of 1, 2, 3, 4 in the balcony? Oh my God. You realize that his first year on the air, on some of those shows, that first season, he had over 40 million viewers. Last week on TV, the largest rated show was America's Got Talent. Not ironically titled, by the way. It's a real show. It had 13.1 million viewers. He had 40 million people watching this. And I realized, I guess this isn't that crowd. But I want to tell you, in between the Hudson River and La Cienega Boulevard, there are a lot of people that loved him because he knew how to keep it simple, stupid, right?
Trump claimed to fight for the working class, but his record told a different story. His tax cuts favored the wealthy, environmental rollbacks benefited corporations over communities, union protections weakened, and his healthcare promises evaporated. Michael Moore, a lifelong defender of working people, called it out every step of the way. He didn't just challenge power, he exposed the con. Trump's Golden Tower wasn't built by factory workers, it was built on their backs. The man in the hard hat was a prop, and the billionaire at the podium was never on their side, he was building for himself. By the end of Trump's term, the myth was cracking. Allies abandoned him, cabinet members quit, and even friendly media began to distance themselves. But Trump didn't back down, he escalated. He pushed election lies that led to an insurrection and demanded loyalty over law. Moore kept the focus on what mattered, not Trump's outbursts, but the harm done, the erosion of truth, the normalization of extremism, and the sense that this was no longer politics, but something far more dangerous. His voice was a warning when one man demands total loyalty, punishes dissent, and rejects reality. Democracy itself is at risk. And America was closer to that edge than it knew. Michael Moore once said, "The worst thing about Trump isn't Trump, it's how many Americans chose to follow him. That," he argued, "was the real horror." Millions weren't tricked, they embraced the racism, cruelty, and chaos. Moore understood this was bigger than one man, it was a sickness years in the making. A media that rewarded spectacle, politicians who abandoned working people, and a culture that mistook cruelty for strength. Trump was only the symptom. The deeper problem was apathy, an addiction to outrage, and a hunger for someone to burn the system down. Moore didn't just blame others, he held up a mirror. And for many, the reflection was hard to face. Loyalty tests, conspiracies replaced policy, and extremists found open microphones as fringe ideas moved into the mainstream. January 6 wasn't the end, it was the start. Michael Moore saw it clearly. This wasn't a political party anymore, but a cult of personality that wouldn't stop. And cults don't compromise, they demand obedience. Trump hadn't built a movement, he dismantled the system and rebuilt it in his own image. Moore's films, speeches, and even tweets weren't longing for a better past, they were warnings of a darker future. A future where lies spread faster than truth, facts are optional, and violence becomes just another political tool. That future isn't a theory, it's already here.
Do you believe there is a chance that Trump could be convicted by the Senate? We will take care of it.
Weirdly enough, I am that kind of optimist that believes that of the 53 Republicans, Trump can keep the majority, 33 of them in support of him. I believe that there are 20 Republicans who could possibly vote to remove him. That could happen. There's a sliver of a chance if the John Bolton testimony shows people what else is there besides the Ukrainian phone call.
And we don't know if he'll be allowed to testify.
Michael Moore kept warning, and many ignored that democracy doesn't collapse with a loud crash, but with quiet indifference. Children in cages were met with shrugs, journalists silenced drugs. COVID deaths climbing past 100,000, then 300,000, then 600,000 more shrugs. Trump understood how to numb a nation, overwhelm it with scandal until nothing felt shocking. But Moore refused to go numb. His camera kept rolling. His voice stayed strong. He reminded us that silence isn't neutral, it's consent. A country that stops feeling will stop fighting. Trump didn't win because he was a genius. He won because too many stopped caring. Moore's mission was to wake people up before it was too late.
Donald Trump came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that to these executives. And it was music to the ears of people in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, the Brexit states.
Michael Moore never claimed to have all the answers, but he never stopped asking the hard questions. What if Trump comes back? What if next time he finished the job? This isn't guesswork, it's a plan he's already hinted at. Mass firings, political purges, military crackdowns, and revenge against his opponents. That's not policy, it's payback. Moore's warnings feel prophetic now because the next time there may be no. Guardrails, loyalists are in place, courts are shifting, and millions are still cheering. This isn't fear-mongering, it's recognizing the pattern. The stakes aren't about left or right anymore, they're about survival. If we ignore this moment, we might not get another chance. Moore sees the fire and is pleading with us not to look away. This isn't just about Trump, it's about who we are as a nation. Do we laugh off corruption, shrug at cruelty, and call tyranny tough love? Or do we finally hear the alarms Moore has been sounding for decades? If Trump runs again and wins, it won't be because he tricked us, it'll be because we allowed it. Because we normalized what should never be normal, accepted what should never be acceptable, and forgot that democracy isn't guaranteed, it's earned every day by those who choose truth over comfort and courage over cynicism. Moore's message is blunt. This doesn't stop unless we stop it, not with apathy, not with hope alone, but with action, now.